All right, we are live. Hello, everyone. I'm just logging in a couple minutes early just to make sure we are live streaming and that we are able to get together to have this amazing conversation, which I'm really excited about. Every second Wednesday of every month is when we start having this conversation about oh, we're just checking in. All right, we're live. This is exciting. Happy to be here. Happy to see who else is here. If you are joining, it's 5:29 p.m. In Calgary, Alberta. But in about a minute or so, we can get started. But I just wanted to join in a little bit early, just to make sure things are working, because you never know with these technical difficulties, right? So just wanted to check that that is good, and I am pumped. I'm pumped to be here because Reskill with Jeddy, we go live every second Wednesday of the month, and the time that we spend here is very strategic because I am here to make sure that we are teaching you some specific skills, some specific strategies. So, yeah, if you're joining us live from wherever you are, please send me a message on LinkedIn in the chat. That's the only way I know that you're here. If I see that chat start to come through. And if you're watching this on YouTube as well, then that's also a win. So let me just put my camera on for just a second just to get everything started. And let's see here. Reskill with Jetty. This is our fourth show, which is exciting because I've only done I started to discover that this could be a great way to add on some new strategies and how we teach, because we do write our monthly blog every month. And following that, I also make sure that I am keeping up with this content, which is very new to us. But I feel like this is something which kind of enhances our learning mechanisms, because why not have different modalities of learning? So I'm really kind of just been trying this out since the beginning of 2026, so January. So this is our fourth reskill session. And as you know, when the blog comes out on the first Wednesday of every month, we start, we kind of leverage that content and then we teach. So welcome. Some people here already. Daniel, Christy, Charlie, thank you so much. I know the chat gets quite busy. So what I'm going to do, for the purposes of the formatting of this session, what we do is 15 minutes. The first 15 minutes is going to be just me teaching you some content. And then the remaining 15 minutes after the content's been delivered, we'll do some Q&A. And at the same time, I'll keep an eye on chat. Okay, so that's what I'm going to do. So if you have read or have not read the blog, it's not necessary that you have read the blog, but if you read the blog, that's great. jeddywellness.com/blogs is where we post our monthly content. So I wanted to start this discussion by just asking the folks who joined to maybe just tell me a little bit, or put it in the chat box and tell me a little bit about your the reason. There's a few different levers when we think about burnout. So I want you to think about, was there a lever that perhaps led you to burnout? A lot of people say workload. I myself, I think at one point said workload was one of the reasons that I was experiencing burnout. But it's not just workload that leads to burnout. Lack of autonomy, lack of control is another reason why we start to experience burnout. So when we wrote our newest blog, which was Taking Control Back, I was thinking, well, I really want to kind of dive into and speak about what it would feel like to not have that sense of control, and some strategic ways that we can get that sense of control back. And I'm going to teach you 3 different ways. Now, the first one, I'll start right away. I'm going to hide my visual so you can just see, you can just hear me, but you can just see just the visual here. Before I even begin that, like I said, workload is not the only reason people burn out, but when it comes to lack of control, so when it comes to lack of control, all these 3 types of workload are some things that we need to pay attention to. And if you've been in other episodes, I've talked about all 3 of them. So there's 3 different types of workload that we need to kind of learn the vocabulary, but also learn to sort of bucket our workload. So the first one is prescribed, which is what the job expects you to do. When you apply for a job, you get a job description, and that is just what that job is. And the middle one, I've highlighted that in orange because that's the one that I want you to be paying attention to when we decide, or when you start to feel that there is lack of control, and you're starting to feel that burnout because of lack of control. And that is how heavy or manageable that work feels to you. And this could be different from person to person. So that loss of control, when you start to feel that, I want you to think about, what is my perceived workload? And if you start to think about that, you will realize that burnout isn't just about the actual workload which you end up doing to meet those expectations, which is also another reason for burnout. But if lack of control is what you're feeling, then I really want you to be paying attention to that middle box right there, which is the perceived workload. And when you figure out, like, this is how I feel about my workload, and this is why I'm feeling that there's lack of control, that low control will start to amplify everything else. And that's quite common. So in this sort of space, I want you to really just ask yourself, like, what are some things that I can do to ensure that I can get that control back in that perceived workload space? So how do you do that? That's the question that I would ask people. And how do you do that? Very easy. Um, Basically, you do a brain dump, right? You do a brain dump and you decide, well, what is it that I can remove from my brain that will reduce that mental overload? And the second thing right after that, if you want to get that control back, is start to prioritize. I know this sounds really simple, but not just self prioritization, but also prioritization with your manager or your team lead, the person that is responsible for your workload. Let's get those people, involved in getting that control back, and then just reprioritizing and getting focused back on one to two things. Because as you know, and Christy, you're saying that as well, I burned out because lack of control could start to feel overwhelming. So you need to ask yourself, why do I feel that the work feels so heavy, and what are the areas in that work in those domains of my work where it is starting to feel heavy? So the key takeaway here from this slide is, when you start to feel lack of control as one of the drivers of burnout, which is research based, you can definitely get that reasonable control back, as long as you decide that it is not the actual workload that's bothering me, it's not the expectation of the job, it's how heavy or manageable or unmanageable this work feels to me, and I need to do a bit of an audit, and I need to get that control back, so that I'm feeling like I am choosing what I am doing. And this is where leaders listening, team leads listening, I really want you to step in here and share in the comments as well. This is where leaders really need to be that ally and that support system for the staff who may be feeling that lack of control because of an overwhelming sense of perceived workload. So the next segue, which is the second strategy we've talked about in this blog, and I'll talk about this here. Let me again turn off my video so you can pay attention to the deck here, is support from the leaders, support from your colleagues, from your peers. If you feel like you're on your own, and you can put this in the chat box, if you feel like you're on your own, it is one of the fastest way to lose control. And if you've ever felt that, I can tell you, you can put it in the chat box, but if you've ever felt like I am losing control, ask yourself, do you feel like you're on your own? And that feeling just amplifies if you don't have support. So there's two different types of support here that I want you to be paying attention to. The left side here is perceived support, and the right side here is received support. So perceived support is just the belief, is the support available to me? And the right side, which is a received support in orange, this is the actual support that is given to you. And ideally, we want there to be some kind of an alignment to make sure that we're getting a little bit of both, right? So what I want you to think about is, when you are extending or expanding your support system, you get to have more options. Going back to that workload thing, though, if you feel like I can receive support, and my perceived support from my boss matches the level that I can go and show them what priorities do I choose, then you're more likely to feel like your control is back in your work environment. So that is something I want you to pay attention to. So the things that you need to ask yourself when you're thinking about support is, I want you to ask yourself, like, who can help me? Who in this environment here is going to help me? Is there a manager? Is there a peer? Is there a mentor? Who has my back? And I want you to be really specific about perceived and received support, because I need you to even ask yourself, what do I need from this person? And what clarity can they give me? And what feedback can they offer me in these two domains? And last but not the least, I also actually want to use that support. I think that's the most important one. I want you to use the support when you're starting to feel like there's a lack of control, because like I said in the beginning, if you start to feel like you are spiraling and you're starting to lose control, ask yourself, who is in my corner? And this is a good sort of analysis. Really simple, nothing too complicated. Create two circles like this and ask yourself, who is giving me the support that I believe I have, and can the people in blue actually give me that support if I were to ask them? And where do they fit in those categories? Are they a peer? Are they a manager? Are they a mentor? Who do I go to? Okay. And thank you, Marcia, for joining. When there is zero accountability with others. Yes, I do love your comment on that. So yeah, keep that chat going. I know the last time we had a lot of people commenting on a lot of different things. The last strategy I'm going to give you in the remaining sort of 5 minutes or so of this micro learning, reskilling piece here, to get control back when you start to feel that this is what is leading to your burnout, is job clarity versus job competence. The one on the left hand side is clarity on your job. The one on the right hand side is the competence on your job. They're two different things. And I think sometimes we get very, very confused as to what they are. When a lot of people start to feel that they're stuck, is because they don't realize why they're stuck. Is it the clarity of the job? Is it the competence that I'm kind of relying on? So job clarity is the decisions that you're making, the outcomes that you're accountable for, and it's the things that are going to reduce that ambiguity. I know what to do. You should be able to say, I know what my job is, and I know what to do. I know what my role is. I know what decisions I can make, and I know what I'm accountable for. That is the clarity that I need all of you to have in your job. And you'll be very surprised to hear, or maybe not all that surprised, when I say to you that sometimes people don't have clarity in their jobs. They don't know what their role is. They don't know what decisions they're making. And they certainly don't know who is accountable for what, and what their accountability is. So that comment about accountability, actually, it's actually a good kind of segue into this slide here. And job competence, on the other hand, this is about your competence, your skills. Do I feel confident in executing the requirements of the job, the responsibilities that's been given to me effectively? Can I take initiatives, or am I just reacting? Right. So they're two completely different things. So one of the ways that you can get control back in these situations, when there's no clarity on your job, or you're starting to feel like I am losing a sense of who I am, is I want you to write down what your role is. Yes, you were given a role, you were given a job, you were hired for that job, but maybe that job has changed. Maybe that job is no longer the job that you're doing. So if you want to reduce ambiguity, I want you to really write down what your role is in its current form, because jobs also transform as teams transform, as organizations transform. So I want you to also think about what that role is, and identify those skills that can help you stay accountable, so that you can start to really get clarity on and competency, so that you can feel more in control and have actionable things that you can do. Hi, Gregory. Nice to see you. And others as well. So as I wrap up this 15 minutes of my reskill session on how to get control back, there's three things I want you to pay attention to. I want you to pay attention to those three different types of workload that we've talked about in the past, in many Jeddy Wellness blogs, but realizing that paying close attention to that perceived workload is what's going to allow you to get that control back. What matters first, and then being able to execute that in a way where you are relying on that support, which takes me down to the second point, which is really doubling down on the fact that support is a resource. In the job demands and resources model, we always say that anytime there's low resources and high demands, that's going to lead to burnout. And support is one resource that can actually flip the script towards reducing burnout and reducing that stress and giving you more control when that demand is high. So to get that support back, remember, perceived support, received support, there are different things. You need to know who the people are that you believe are going to help you, and then go back to that column or that other Venn diagram and identify, like, are these people actually going to be there to have my back, to do this, to can I call on them when I need help? And the third point I wanted to make here was the difference between clarity and competency. Job clarity is a very specific thing, and jobs that are continuously in motion, jobs that keep changing, roles that keep changing, ambiguity causes a lot of burnout. So there might be a time if you're starting to feel like I'm losing control and I'm constantly in this like hyper reactive mode. I want you to pay attention to what is my job, and can I write a 2 to 3 bullet point job description of my current role, and do I have the skills and the knowledge and the abilities to work in this job with the competencies that I have. So just get that definition of those two things very clearly. Now, if you can see here, a lot of the things that I'm sharing with you are not that complicated, but when we're in that state of being highly reactive, we start to sort of lose focus on the different elements on of what the like almost the anchors of what we need to get that clarity back. So if you don't want to be reactive and if you want to get that control back to not be burnt out, I really want you to be paying attention to all of these things. Okay. And if you missed the beginning parts of it, the slides were pretty clean, so go back and look at that. And I think at this point, because it is 5:46 and I stay true to my word, if it's 15 minutes of learning, it's 15 minutes of learning, and then I'll take some Q&A at this point. So happy to take some questions just to help you get some more clarity. Let's get some more clarity on how to move from this reactive mindset to a more controlled mindset, because that is one of the many things that leads to burnout: is workload pressures, loss, role ambiguity, not getting rewards and recognitions, not getting feedback, misalignment of values. These are all things. And this particular deck or the blog that we wrote was particularly to highlight that sense of control back. Okay, perfect. So let me go back to my camera space here, and let me see if there's any questions or comments that I can probably answer. And please ask me anything. I'll be here for another 10 minutes or so, and feel free to just put your question in, and I'll pop that over on the chat here so we can answer them together. Very first question, I love it, from Daniel. Would it be fair to say that if there was a lack of clarity in role, clarifying it is a shared responsibility between leadership and the employee, as the employee has to bring the issue up? And same thing could apply to competency. Yes, that is the short answer, Daniel. The short answer is yes. If there is that, so I'll break this up into two sort of elements. The first element being, this is not just a shared responsibility. I think this is a collective responsibility. In our company, we teach well-being from 4 different levels: the individual level, the group / team level, the leader / manager level, and then the organizational level. So your question actually isn't just about shared responsibility, which is one part of the answer. I do believe that this is a collective responsibility that really does affect every level of corporate well-being. So if we are feeling like lack of control is, and we have done our own audit, and we now want to take that our individual responsibility to now discuss it with our managers, then absolutely you should be able to do that with no fear, having a lot of trust with your leaders, and really just ensuring that you have a safe space to bring these things up. Because if we're talking about perceived and received um, uh, support, and we're talking about the different domains of workload, my audit that I do is not going to be helpful if that audit is not validated by the person, the manager that is overseeing my work. And then now this becomes a shared responsibility. Now, how do we negotiate something that will give me that sense of control back? So fantastic question. I love that. And that same goes with competency. In fact, I would add a layer to that question. Is not just competency. I really do believe that this is also something where in lots of different teams we start to see role ambiguity. One individual is getting promotions, but just a title promotion. And this is something actually I've been thinking about writing, maybe a blog post or maybe a LinkedIn post about is, and I'd love to see some comments in the chat about it, is have you ever been given a promotion in your work environment where it's just a title boost, but there's no actual compensation that comes with it because there was no clarity in your job? So because there was no clarity in your job, your boss says, hey, guess what, I'm going to give you I'm going to give you a promotion, but it's just a title boost. Your salary will stay the same, but your title will look really nice. But then there's really no clarity on what exactly the job is or the competency, and there's no equity in payment, or equity in pay. So fantastic question. So yes, it's a shared collective responsibility, and there needs to be trust and safety, psychological safety, for us to be able to negotiate something like this. So fantastic question. Second question: how to get leaders to be reactive to change, their recruiting techniques. Hey, easy answer. Can I give you an easy answer, Gregory? An easy answer would be come and make learning and development part of your, not a mandate, but part of your self-growth and self-development. That would be kind of like an easier answer to give, is really just encouraging people to go from awareness to action. Is don't just come here to learn because you're like, oh, I heard another amazing workshop. I want you to come here to learn so that you can apply those skills into that space. And I'll add to you, Gregory, in those four levels of organizational well-being: individual level, group level, leader level, and the organizational level, which is in the bottom. Yeah, it's in the bottom. The reason I guess we put it in the bottom as well is because it is one of the most complex things to change, along with like leadership changes. And it gets even more complicated when leaders are re, not aligned with organizational well-being. So one of the ways to maybe get leaders to be more reactive to change is to get them to the organization can develop some really strategic policies. I would love to see some guidelines and policies and frameworks that will allow the leaders to follow through with that. And B, the leaders themselves need to be held accountable to not just sit in a workshop and learn, but then take that content, look at their policies, and then apply that. So there's a lot of self-growth and development that needs to happen. And I think that's one of the bigger reasons why corporate well-being is such a challenging space, where I myself can give you three different ways to get control back, but I'm not confident, or I don't really have the data to know that you might, or you may or may not apply those evidence-based strategies. All we have is the literature to say that this works. Will I know you tried it? Unless you tell me, I wouldn't really know. So great question. You guys are coming with some fantastic questions today. Usually the questions are a little bit more relaxed, but thank you so much for such a good question. I appreciate that. And anyone else who's watching, I don't know who's watching. I know we had quite a few people register for the workshop, and or not. This is not a workshop. This is just a reskill session. Please put that in the comment. Marcia, let's see what you have to say. I have complete clarity. However, my supervisor forgot, so I had to remind him. Absolutely. And why not, right? I think we need to get our own clarity first. So get that job clarity, be able to speak about what is it that you do, write about what is it that you do in current state. People that can speak with clarity, that can, have evidence to show that these are the tasks that I've been doing, or if there's been a bit of a pivot in the type of work that you're doing. A lot of the times I feel like managers, middle managers, and even young graduates who are starting their work for the first time, I think they get so caught up in just doing the work that that confusion never ever goes away, and they never stop to say, well, what am I actually doing here? So one recommendation that I give to managers, leaders, and individuals, new and old, however long you've been in the industry or working, not working, is really just to collect the types of works that you're doing. Collect the data, identify where is the big chunk of your time going. Are you spending most of your time just creating reports because that's sort of the new domain that you're working on, or are you spending the majority of your time really just sitting through meetings where nothing really ever happens? Or are you the one that is really just creating strategy but not actually evaluating that piece? What are you doing? I would love for people to not just tell me what they're doing. I would love for people to show me what they're doing. And bonus points if you can actually give me that job clarity with some data. I would love that. If you can come and say, I have complete clarity of my job because this is what I've done, this is what I've been doing, this is how I've been spending my time, and here's the data to show you, the qualitative as well as the quantitative pieces. Love it. You're done. Your clarity will now then be reminded to your boss with that same sense of clarity. So I love that. Okay, what else do we have here? More comments from Gregory. No, I haven't at all in terms of promotions. I've been passed over many times. Okay. And you know what? That can happen sometimes. We can be the best person for the job, and maybe the timing isn't just right. And sometimes I really do feel like it's a blessing if you don't get that promotion, right? I think it's we never ever should let the not getting the promotion or not getting the job isn't the reflection of who we are. We have the competence, we have the clarity, right? We know what we're good at, and this is why coming to sessions like this and doing your own audit and upskilling and reskilling are some good strategies to ensure that you don't lose sight of what your North Star is. Okay. Fantastic. Charlie, lovely to see you. I know you always come to my sessions. I love it. Thank you so much. I know you always come to a lot of our sessions, so I really appreciate you. Ironically, iron sharpens iron. Yes, clarity brings more clarity. The more clarity we can get, the more we're going to be able to speak and share and show the data. I love it. I really do like that. Thank you so much. Yeah, we're only going to be live for another 4 minutes or so because I like to stay true to my schedule. 30 minutes is 30 minutes, and you can always rewatch this on YouTube, on LinkedIn. The replay is always available. So please go back and look at those three things that I've told you about. Go back and read the blog. That one's always helpful as well. Another question from Danielle. Some jobs involve repetitive tasks. The McDonald's cook. How would you avoid burnout of employees wanting growth? Great questions. Repetitive tasks is another not only repetitive tasks. I would say if you're not getting the recognition and rewards, the monotony of the task sometimes is, as long as you like it. If you like the monotony of the task and you're like, I'm happy to do it. If you want people to avoid burnout, reward them, give them recognition, give them feedback, allow them to learn and discover new skills for them to tap into. Give them opportunity to do 3 months or 60 days or even a couple of weeks of another task. Give them task variety, right? Again, this goes back to the employee being able to recognize that this monotonous thing that I'm doing is affecting my mental well-being. I'm starting to feel like I'm burning out. So I think that's important to say, that this is causing me to lose control and I'm feeling that I'm not able to do my task well. So the employee needs to be able to identify that and be able to discuss that with their manager. And the leaders, this is where I need you to step in. I need you to recognize that this can happen and build in those contingencies in the work plan of the individual, and allow them to have a bit of task variety to keep them. Task variety, recognition, proper feedback, rewards. These are all things that managers can do to ensure that the employee doesn't burn out and wanting that development and growth support. So this is a leader responsibility. Again, I think we also need to have self advocacy. If we want to, we need to be able to speak up and share that this is what's happening to me. When I was working in the lab many years ago, I realized that I was not the person to be in a lab with a lab coat, although I was really good at it. It was the repetitive task that I did not like. I also didn't like the fact that I was isolated a lot of the times. And if you know me, I'm a pretty social person. So I needed to be around people. So although I loved working in microbiology, I loved working with diseases, uh, DNA extraction, RNA extraction. I loved all of those pieces. They were so great. But I quickly realized that this space of repetitive tasks and being in isolation was not healthy for me. So what did I do? I spoke to my mentor, my boss at the time, and I said, I don't think this is the right career for me. And I was actually starting to doubt that maybe I was in the wrong job. Only to realize that there's a lot you can do when it comes to microbiology and surveillance of diseases. So I moved from the actual lab space, which is where that's called the wet lab. And I moved into more the analytical strategy policy space, which still allowed me to use what I wanted to use. But two things happened. A, I spoke up. B, I had a really, really supportive and trusting boss who recognized that my competencies would be better used in a different capacity. So you do really, really need a good boss. So leaders, if you're listening, please, please please listen to your team. All right, let's a couple more things here. And Jackie, nice to see you as well. We'll be wrapping up here in just a minute. Thanks for the answer, Sumana. I've been reading some articles that I feel vindicated that the recruitment techniques have been done against me shouldn't be done. Other companies have changed internationally. Others in Winnipeg are resistant to change in terms of diverse candidates. So I don't really have a lot of comments on that one. I haven't read the article, Gregory, but I'm sorry to hear that happened. And policy change is one of the most difficult things in that IGLO model that we need to work towards. Is how do I really create some specific organizational policies that will protect the employee and also support the leaders and equip them with tools. What I feel like leaders also need are frameworks like this, tools like this that I've given to really just ensure that we're working for the same goal. Okay, so it's 6 o'clock. I will let you folks go, and I do appreciate everyone who popped in to listen live. Before I let you go, I will let you know that we do have our monthly blogs on jeddywellness.com/blogs. That's where all the information is. This is the strategies that I showed you today. Maybe not in this format, but in another format are available on the blog. We do post them on the first Wednesday of every month. I appreciate having you live watching and listening, and you can always watch the replay as well at another time. And if you have any other questions after this, please put them in the chat box as well, because I will go through and read them. And please follow all our ambassadors. We have about 13 ambassadors, and our website's been completely redone. So go have a look. We've got some new stuff. Everything looks nice and fresh and clean for spring. So have a look at jeddywellness.com. And if you find any bugs on the site, please let me know, because we're still kind of working through it since it got launched. But if you find any bugs on your end, please send me a DM. But beyond that, I wish you well. Please, yes, send me any thoughts and comments that you have. Please send me any DMs, any papers you want me to read. Thank you, Jamie. Thank you, Jackie. Thank you, Daniel. Thank you, Charlie, Christy. Who else do we have here? And Gregory, of course, my friend. Appreciate you. And I am definitely looking forward to coming back in May. Second week of May, and also the following Monday, I will be back with Felipe to do Workplace Wellness Hour every other Monday night without Ashley this time. So it's going to be Felipe and I running the show for the remainder of the semester, because we will be running Workplace Wellness Hour till about the end of June. And then we will be back again in September after we take a summer break. So Workplace Wellness Hour is on Monday night at 6 p.m. And I'll be back next month doing something similar to this. All right. Thank you so much. Take care, everybody. And thanks for joining me live. Bye for now.